All right, hi everyone. Welcome to an impromptu Wednesday live stream. And this time I'm going to basically review the newest rules for the newest hot thing, which is the Tempestus Scion Aquilions, I believe they're properly called. So let's basically get the screen up in front of us here. So looking at my tired old face, but basically we're looking at impromptu live stream. A lot of content coming this week. Hopefully a balanced data set tomorrow as well, which will be exciting for some new point changes, which should come tomorrow, given we just had the LGT London Grand tournament happen this weekend with 850 players, including myself, playing. So GW will have loads of data to basically go through and absorb. Yeah, so obviously Kill Team had the Hive, whatever it's called, the Hive Storm, I think, Kill Team box, which has the Tempestus Scions peeling it off against the Vesped Tau bugs. And it's very good to see that GW are supporting that launch with some 40k dedicated rules. So just to remind ourselves of actually what these models look like, because this is actually important as we look at the actual data sheet, which is now publicly available, is these models look absolutely awesome. There are plenty of tactical boxes as opposed to tactical rocks, which is interesting. A bit of a detraction from the old-fashioned tactical rock to give them a bit of a dynamic pose, but you've got the Sergeant and Tempesta, a gunfighter with twin las pistols. Hotshot las pistols was a pretty cool detail in the box magazines. You've then got a gunner, which is it's a plasma and or melter. And a really nice touch is also they've got this marksman. And as we'll look in a second, I think it's really nice they've actually given them box magazines as opposed to the cables, because you can imagine deploying with a jump pack and a cable flapping around could be a bit of a hazard for your health and safety. Hey, Watchdog. Hey, how you doing, man? Nice to see you on the live stream. Good to see you, man. Then you've got the Precursor, who's a stabby person, the Grenadier, and you can see that it's got a melter mine, which is an important thing to remember as you look at the data sheet. And then you've got the Troopers, and a cool detail is you've got the box magazine. Well, this chap here has got the power cable, and I think in the animation which they actually had on the on 40k website is that they can almost like detract it, like fire a few shots, stick the cable back in and keep firing. So it's some cool detail. And of course our favorite, of course, is a servo-sentry, which is awesome, absolutely awesome to see this type of thing. So it can be with a hotshot volley gun, grenade launcher and flamer. So super cool to see that coming through. So that's important to ground ourselves, because as we get to the actual data sheet, and this is available on GW to download now, so I'll put in the link in the description below, so check it out. But let's ground ourselves in some core details. So I've also got for reference the bog standard Tempestus Scions. Okay, bog standard is 6-inch move, toughness 3, 4+ save, 1 wound, 7+ leadership, and OC value of 1. And that is exactly the same as the Tempestus Aquilions, the jump pack boys. Now, I was lucky to post this this new stuff on some socials, and I've got a bit of feedback from you in the audience, which is fantastic, including some of my patrons on Discord, including Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten in the chat. Is one thing to immediately draw your attention to is a move of 6. Now, these are jump pack troops, and we would assume, like other jump pack troops in 40k, their move would be a bit longer than 6 inches. So that is already something to think about, as the fact that they're not a fast-moving units, but that is potentially addressed, as we'll see, with their weapon systems they can employ. Now, so that's core. Okay, abilities, core deep strike, just like our friends at Tempestus Scions is deep strike. Now, let me just jump all over the place. Apologies, but let's look at now keywords. So the box standard signs, I've got infantry, Imperium, grenades, regiment, Militarum, Tempestus, and Tempestus Scions. And the flyboys have got infantry, grenade, smoke, Imperium, regiment, Militarum, Tempestus, and Tempestus Aquilions. So there are some additional words there. Now let's just check if there's any missing. So infantry grenades. These Aquilions don't have Imperium. I don't know if that would. Oh no, they do. They have Imperium. Apologies. Are they missing any though? Regiment, grenades, no. So they've got all the same keywords as the Scions, with a key inclusion being smoke, and obviously Tempestus Aquilions, which is their unique keyword. So that's interesting, and that's something that some of the patrons picked up on as the keyword smoke. And this obviously means you can use the smoke screen stratagem, whatever it's called, and that gives you -1 to hit and a +1 cover save. So that will come in handy. Now, always to remember that costs you a command point. You need to invest behind that to support this unit, but that is adding to the survivability. So already we are potentially seeing a more survivable unit, albeit a small degree, compared to the bog standard Scions. Yeah, so -1 to hit, +1 save is very helpful, obviously. So that's something to think about. Obviously, grenades, fantastic. And that's very important to remember when we look at one of their abilities. And of course, regiment means this unit can be recycled. So your opponent kills them off and they come back once per game for 2 CP. Now, I'm going to jump ahead again, apologies, but if we go to the second part of the data sheet, you can see the unit composition is 10 models, and also the it's a bit further up, but the actual sentry, the servitor gun is just basically a token, so it doesn't actually contribute to the footprint of this 10-man model unit. And you can see, interestingly, is that this is costed at 90 points. Now, 90 points is obviously less than 10 equivalent Scions, which will cost you 100 points. 50 points times 2 is 100. But what we don't know is that the balanced data slate should come tomorrow, given, as I just said, we've had the London Grand Tournament where a load of players played and Guard did pretty well, broadly speaking. And I expect some changes to occur. So within the confines of obviously the current data slate, 90 points is 10 points cheaper. So you've got a cheaper unit to consider. Now, with 10 models, that does mean the footprint is significantly bigger than obviously 5 models. And something else to remember is the actual, my assumption is the base sizes of the Aquilions will be the 27.5, I think it is, versus the 25 mil, which is the Scions, which is all the smallest base possible. And I'm making that assumption based on the Kazkin and also the Def Corps Kree kill team dudes with the bigger bases. And if you just look at the actual images of these blokes, it definitely looks like it's the bigger base. Now, having just played obviously 5 games at LGT, squeezing in 10 Kazkin feels quite hard actually compared to squeezing in 10 Scions, because it's funny how that extra 2.5 millimeters of space actually adds up. That's an extra inch, actually 2.5 centimeters times 10. So actually, if you conceptualize it like that, you've got to find an additional inch of space to fit in 10 of these flyboys versus 10 of the Tempestus Scion. So the joke is always every inch counts, every centimeter counts, and certainly when you're trying to deep strike these guys into tight places, that is a consideration, albeit quite a sort of a smaller one. Cool. Now, I think let's get then onto the key stuff. Now, onto their DACA, I'm going to do my very best to sort of articulate this in the correct fashion, is that, okay, firstly, you get the sentry. It can take either a flamer, hotshot volley gun, or grenade launcher. And then the Tempesta, the sergeant, can swap his las carbine, which they all come with a chainsaw, power saw, and las pistol, or and also a bolt pistol and las pistol. So they could take a stabber and a shooter, or they could take 2 shooters. You could take a las pistol and a bolt pistol. That's certainly pretty cool. So lots of DACA. And then 1 Tempestus Aquilion's hotshot las gun, las carbine can be replaced with a melter or a plasma. So that, okay, so only one can take a melter or plasma. So if I'm reading this right, and if I got it wrong, chat, tell me, but you can only take 1 special weapon in this squad. Yes. So that is a lot less than the Tempestus Scions, because obviously 10-man Scions, you get 2 melter, 2 plasma, or 4 special weapons, whatever you want to choose. And here you get just 1. Yeah, so we've got, again, compared to the Scions, which I know very well, the Scion Tempesta, the bog standard one can have a power fist and a plasma pistol. So the sergeant is less superior in this instance, the flyboys versus the normal Scions. And then you can only take 1 special weapon. Now that is a concern in inverted commas, because you go from 4 to 1. Then I think this is a bit cute, but you can then basically replace 1 of their hotshot las carbines with 2 hotshot las pistols. That's cool, dual wield pistols. We'll have a look at that in a second. 1 Tempestus Scion's hotshot las carbine can be replaced with 1 hotshot lung las, so a sniper rifle. Okay, so that's unique. and that will probably be close or similar to what the Kazkin have. We'll have a look in a second. And then it says up to 2 Tempestus Aquilions can each have their hotshot las replaced by 1 hotshot las pistol. Okay, so ooh, I don't really know what that gets you. Yeah, so this looks like you're going to get less DACA. Granted, you get a sniper rifle and you get a sentry model. Now, as I said, an important thing to remember as we looked at the actual cool preview they did, this was obviously a couple of weeks ago, from a month ago, is that one of the models is equipped with what looks like a very nice looking melter bomb. Now, there's no mention of a melter bomb in here, and I assume this here, this is what this model is basically you can take him holding this big fat melter bomb with a pistol, so at least it marries up to what the actual model is, but that feels a bit off. They don't have the melter mine or melter bomb, because obviously the Kazkin have it, and if these models had it certainly, if they had identical rule, as we'll see in a second, that could have been a very nice combination to have in place. But it doesn't look like it. So weaponry wise, they look to be vastly inferior. Well, we'll debate about the sentry because it's got a unique rule, but they appear to be vastly inferior if you're just looking at the 10 dudes. Yeah, don't have a plasma pistol on the sergeant, don't have a power fist on the sergeant. You've got 1 plasma or melter compared to 4 special weapons. Okay, you can take a hotshot long las, which is certainly helpful for precision, and then you can do some cute stuff with extra pistols, which is very, very cool. Because that maybe is something to think about in a second, but let's just now jump ahead. So, okay, let's now look at the abilities, because this is obviously very interesting. So it's funny to see. I did a little poll with all you viewers out there a couple of weeks ago when I said, what is going to be the rule they get? Is it going to be 3-inch deep strike? It's 9-inch move, up, down, like Gort's Ghost or something else? And we basically, I think most of you said 3-inch deep strike, and here we are, 3-inch deep strike. So to make sure it is just like anything else, it can perform a precision drop anywhere in the battlefield 3 inches horizontally away from all enemy units. But they can't declare a charge. So just like most of the other 3-inch units out there on other armies, the classic is the Space Marine Inceptors, is they can land 3 inches away, but then they can't charge. Now, that then gets onto the entire discussion about what this unit actually does for us. And this is me trying to be all tactical. As always, like, what is a unit actually going to do for you on the tabletop? So a 3-inch deep strike is fantastic for mission play, and fantastic for potentially removing enemy units. Now, we need to then ask, has the unit got enough firepower to do that? And as per the discussion we just had, it appears that they are inferior to Tempestus Scions in that sense. Because as you know, another thing that Tempestus Scions has going for them is the organic reroll once to hit, and or if the opponent's on an objective, you get 4 rerolls to hit. Now, this is obviously very powerful. This essentially turns them from a 3+ ballistic skill to probably a 2+ ballistic skill. Very, very accurate. And given also if you're shooting infantry, which obviously applies to the flyboys, additional rolls means you have the additional chance of actually generating a 6, which is a lethal hit against non-volt monsters and vehicles. Now, the flyboys have none of that. Obviously, you're relying upon their core ballistic skill, which is 3+ for most of this stuff. But that is less intensive from a damage output point of view. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, as per I was chatting with one of my patrons, Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten in the chat, is that, as I said, when you're trying to squeeze in 10 models, which got a larger base at 27.5 mil, suddenly it becomes less easy than squeezing in potentially 5. Now, if this had the option of being 5 models, this would be an amazingly good mission play unit. But obviously 10, which taking up an extra inch of space, 2.5 centimeters of space compared to 10 Scions, is not going to fit in as many places as you would hope. Of course, though, 3-inch deep strike is 3-inch deep strike. In my games I play, I typically think if my opponent's got 3-inch deep strike, they're going to deep strike somewhere in my backfield. It's just going to happen. It's pretty bloody hard to screen them out unless you take the astropath in the command squad to basically deny all that. Let me just check all the chat. So Henrik has said infantry choices. Yeah, I know, 50 euros for. So this chap is basically saying it's very expensive, and it certainly is. I mean, the pricing of GW now is getting awfully expensive. Yeah, and then Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten is saying 1 special weapon, but they get a sniper rifle in addition for some reason. That's true, and a bit of a shame they don't get the box lock to have both the melters and plasmas are missing. Yeah, so absolutely, mate. Absolutely, James. Yeah, so, okay, so as I was saying, these are potentially a mission play tool at 90 points. Maybe there's a lot of value in that, and certainly if you're getting desperate to get behind enemy lines or deploy locusts, the secondary objectives, this is the unit for you. But as we turn to actually the conversation about damage output, which is always the easiest conversation, is the servo-sentry rule is quite unique. So when this unit is set up on the battlefield using the deep strike ability, the Tempestus Aquilion, the sergeant can shoot its sentry weapon being the flamer, grenade launcher, or hotshot volley gun, as if it is your shooting phase. Now, I had to basically have this explained to me by one of my patrons, is that what this basically means is they get to shoot twice, essentially, because the Tempestus Aquilion, as we scroll down, is equipped with Tempestus Aquilion is equipped with hotshot lascar. Yeah, apologies. Tempestus is equipped with the hotshot las carbine, sentry flamer, and close combat weapons. So he can basically take instead a power sword, a chain sword, or dual pistols, and he swap his hotshot las carbine also for a pistol. But the sentry flamer, he's equipped with it. So as I was saying, is you could deep strike it. It then fires the sentry weapon, and then in your shooting phase, it also gets to fire the weapon. Likewise, if you rapid ingress this unit, you get to fire the weapon. So this is certainly quite unique, and I don't know many other units, if at all, that have this ability. And if you know, I can't think of any armies that have this, where basically you can shoot at a deep strike. That's actually quite unique. And then potentially, this is going to lean into the conversation about damage output. So as I said, you've only got 1 special weapon. You then got a sniper rifle. Let's have a look where the sniper rifle is. I'm going to zoom in for this. So, okay, so the hotshot long lads has got heavy precision, 36-inch range, hitting on 3s, 4s, 2, and 3. So just like the Kazkin sniper rifle, this is obviously enough to one-shot quite a weak, low-level character, yeah, which is obviously a good option to have. Now, everything else is basically bog standard, except for one key thing which you're going to see here. So the bolt pistol and the hotshot las pistol has got the pistol keyword, and given you can take 2 pistols, you could basically have models with 2 shots hitting on 3s at 3-1-1. Yeah, so you've got basically 2 shots at 3-1-1. So that's cute. I'm going to keep using the word cute, but if you have the choice between a hotshot las carbine and 2 pistols, you're probably just going to always go for the hotshot las carbine, because 18-inch range, which has to be noted, you've always got 2 shots, as opposed to a 12-inch range. At 18 inches, you've got 0 shots, obviously. Now, obviously, there's an important keyword here, is the assault keyword. So the assault keyword appears under hotshot las carbine, the melter carbine, and also the plasma carbine. So all of your riflemen, if you want to call them that, can actually advance and shoot. So this, in theory, and this is a theoretical observation, is that you have a theoretical 9-inch movement then. Yeah, because an average advance roll is a 3. Let's just call it a 3. That means you can advance this unit and shoot. Now, of course, if you advance, you can't charge. But if you're having to charge these boys and the things, it's getting pretty desperate, but it does happen. But that does kind of give us a little bit of a flying unit of feel. You know, stick with me here. We obviously have Gaunt's Ghosts, have got their assault weapons, and given actions require you to shoot and to be eligible, this unit is going to be more and more of an action unit potentially, because you could basically Lord Solar them. You've then got a 9-inch move, advance them. That's a 12-inch theoretical move, and you can basically achieve your action secondary. So that is helpful. But then everything else, let's have a look, and we'll get to the sentry weapon in a second. But basically, the melter carbine. I just noticed something. This is the first time I noticed it. So as I said, hotshot las carbine's got an 18-inch range. We're going back to the old days of shorter range las weaponry. And the melter carbine's got a 10-inch range, and the plasmas have got an 18-inch range. So okay, this makes sense because a carbine, and from a military point of view, is a shorter weapon. They don't actually typically have a shorter range, having used them in the army years and years ago. They basically have a shorter barrel, but the actual effective range is typically the same. But this is quite nice. I'm seeing this actually doing a bit of justice to the law, is that given these are carbines, they're giving them a shorter range. But then that is a restriction. As I joked, every inch counts. You've now got 2 inches less of your melter basically to hit, and you've got 6 inches less of your plasma carbine to hit. Now the plasma carbine, just like the las carbines, have got an assumed rapid fire range because you've got 2 shots, so that certainly is something. But what GW have basically done is you need to always be advancing this unit to get anywhere near as much range as you used to from a threat range perspective. Yeah, because obviously 6-inch move plus the range of the weapon is the threat range. And basically, if now you've got a 6-inch move plus 18 for the las carbine, means the threat range has gone from math, help me, 24, 30 to 24. We've lost 6 inches. Okay, so you've actually reduced the threat range of this unit, albeit you can advance them, but even then you're going to be most of the time 3 inches short. So that's interesting, and not necessarily good. I wouldn't say that's good. Let me just check the chat. So no, all good, Henrik. I get it. No, it's all good. It's all good, man. I get it. It's very, like, I get about it. It's expensive. Cost of living is also ridiculous. So GW is expensive. Absolutely agreed. No debates there. It's all good, man. Yeah, and someone's saying, I thought it'd be a flying unit to make them a little harder to target, but yes, they're not. Having the same movement as a, yeah, agreed. I like them, but not at 1 for 5. Yeah, so that's a good point. In the chat is basically, I'm not going to buy the Hive Storm box set because I don't want to have some Flyboy Vespeds because I don't like Tau, albeit they're quite good from what I've heard. So I'll definitely wait until the box set comes out. But yeah, I almost bought almost bought the box set. I saw it at a hobby shop recently, but I said no. Cool. So then the other one to discuss is then obviously the Sentry weapon. So as we said, the Sentry, servo-sentry, which absolutely looks amazing. Let's go back to the cool, pretty pictures. I think it's so cool to see this type of thing coming in. I love the idea of it sort of walking around with some like technology telling you where to shoot and sort of dabbles around the battlefield. That's super cool. But being able to shoot when it comes in from deep strike, be it via rapid ingress or be it at a normal deep strike, means you essentially get to shoot twice. So we could basically double everything we see in front of us. Now, let's have a look at their weapon profile. So interestingly, the range of these weapons has kept as per what it is typically. So 12-inch flamers, 24-inch crack or frag launchers, and 30-inch hotshot volley guns, which makes sense because obviously this thing is taking the full-blown as opposed to the carbines on the troopers, which is cool. So they're doing a good job there. Now, having a flamer is always helpful because you've got obviously torrent. The grenade launcher, we'll come back to this in a second. It's got some unique considerations here. So you've got frag or crack. And from what my experience, basically the grenade launcher is a jack of all trades, master of none, if that makes sense. It basically sort of stands for nothing because, you know, strength 4 AP0 against infantry is annoying. And against a vehicle's 9-2 D3, it's just going to give them a bit of a tickle. But there is something here from a volume point of view we've got to consider, which is quite unique. So the Sentry Flamer is D6 plus 3. So this is new for Guard. I've never, ever seen a Flamer. Oh, maybe the Infernus Malcador, I think, has got D6 plus 3. And then I believe the Hellhound Chem Cannon's got D6 plus 1. But the Inferno Cannon on the Hellhound's 2D6. But D6 plus 3 means your average is 6 as opposed to a normal flamer is 3 or 4 maybe. So that's good. Extra flamer is extra flamer. And as I said, this is essentially 2D6 plus 3. So actually you're going to have on average math 7 plus 3 plus 3 is, what's that, 13 hits in theory or theoretical. Yeah, so that actually is pretty good because you get to shoot twice. Now, just like what is unique for the Flamer is the Sentry Grenade Launcher, the Frag one, which obviously if it's a individual mounted weapon is D3 shots, but now it's a D3 plus 3. Yeah, so D3 plus 3 blast at 401, and 24-inch range is obviously a lot more than just D3. And then the crack launcher obviously has 2 shots. Well, obviously it's got 2 shots at 9 AP2 D3 damage. So the only issue potentially with the Sentry is it's hitting on 4s as opposed to 3s. But we are seeing here an increased amount of DACA. So maybe the Sentry, servo-sentry, is what will give this unit more output compared to the Scion. Well, as much output as the Scions, because obviously you've got 1 plasma or melter versus 2 plasmas and 2 melters in the Scions, and they've got reroll 1s or full rerolls versus these blokes relying on their 3+, or in this model's instance, the 4+ to hit. And then we've got the hotshot volley gun. Now, this is rapid fire 4, and I'm pretty sure if I go to the bog standard Scions, that is, that's loads more shots. Well, just like everything else they're doing, it's double. Yeah, so you've got rapid fire 2 when it's mounted by a bloke or a woman, and here you've got rapid fire 4. So you go from a potential 4 shots to 8 shots within 15 inches. So that is good. And as we said, you fire twice, you've essentially got 16 shots. Now, of course, we have to always remember, which we can't forget, if you're shooting against the right target, which is infantry, given their regiment, you're getting lethal hits. So suddenly 8 shots is going to get more lethal hits than just 4, obviously, and you're basically doubling the chances, if not quadrupling it, because you're actually firing twice. Let me check the chat. So, got a couple more comments here. Let's see. Yeah, which weapons are leading toward thinking of ingress and trying to hit with some sneaky scoring units before it can do its actions? Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. And Matt finished. Hey, Matt, nice to see you, Matt. Is that, yeah, I think it's so as I said, 3-inch deep strike, they're a mission play unit, but given the size of the actual bases, they're going to be quite hard to squeeze into a typical like Rust base. But 3-inch deep strike is 3-inch deep strike. Now, I mean, that's a thing, Matt. It's like their output at the moment doesn't seem to be as much as what the Scions can do. But maybe with a Sentry, it's going to be equal to potentially with the amount of shots that are coming out. What else we got? So can they be led by a Scion command squad? Someone's asking. So that is what we do not know. So this has been released pre the potential point changes that I expect to come out tomorrow. I think tomorrow or next week. But I think given we had a balanced status slate change in June, I think it was, they won't do a balanced status slate and adjust the rules now. But we'll probably have to wait till the Codex, which is going to come in winter this year for up in the Northern Hemisphere. So hopefully, I'm guessing, and let me know what you think in the chat, that it's going to be a Christmas release for Guard, because typical GW have got to drive sales at Christmas. It's a peak selling period, so they're going to release a load of new Astra Militarum miniatures, which probably will be Krieg or Catagen, is my theory. So I don't know. But if they're led by Scions, that obviously would interface quite well. Now, it depends. I don't know how the rules will work, but currently this wording, so with the wording, and this is when we get a bit into the lawyer aspect, is when this unit is set up. So with this here, my assumption would be that would mean the command squad could also 3-inch deep strike. Now, from a pure model point of view, it would feel a bit weird, and just stick with me here, that you had these gents with the jump packs and the command squad just flopping down in their grab shoot parachutes. But you know what I mean. So we don't know, to answer that question. And then I'm at finish with a token. Yeah, can't be led. Leader specific. Yep. Okay. Might be. Yeah, exactly. So someone else is saying in the chat that we don't know anything about from a leader point of view who that can be led by. But yeah, maybe the Tempestus command squad. We don't know yet, do we? Cool. So from all of that, now, how on earth do I close this? I don't know. Now, firstly, 90 points. As I said, we don't know what's going to come tomorrow or next week. Maybe for whatever reason, Tempestus Scions drop to 45 points. Maybe. I'm personally expecting to see Bulgrams go up in points. At LGT, pretty much everybody had them. And like, I don't think they're not a broken unit by any means of the imagination. Their output is very unreliable. AP1, 2 damage is AP1, which also becomes AP none. against the right opponent, but they're definitely going to get nerfed is my expectation. I think Dawns will go up in points as well. So with all that changing, maybe Scions get cheaper, who knows? And then maybe 90 points maybe isn't actually that much of a saving compared to the Tempestus Scions at 100 points for 10. But I would think, broadly speaking, I don't think you'll get as much damage out of these models as you would for the Scions. Yeah, you've got one plasma or melter, probably always a melter, compared to 2 and 2. You've got a plasma pistol and a power fist. It's a bit of a mess. You don't have the melter mine. Like, obviously, this model's got the melter mine, which would have been cool to see that rule, because if you could be deploying within 3, just outside of 3, no, you've got to be within 3 to trigger the melter mine for the Kazkin, but it's obviously a good option. You're not going to get as much DACA out of them. 3-inch deep strike means they can get to sneakier places, but the shorter range here is something to be factored. Broadly speaking, these are, broadly speaking, this is a pretty broad statement, but broadly speaking, I don't find my infantry shooting that far. They're typically sort of popping out, applying fire, something quite close up at fire range, and then dying. But the reduced range on the las carbine, the plasma or melter is a limitation. But on the flip side, as we've discussed, the double shooting from the servo-sentry is going to add up. And the other thing is, as per we said here, the smoke keyword means you can use that stratagem. You can make them more survivable. But I would say if you're deploying these models 3 inches away from your opponent and you don't wipe out that unit, whatever it is that's holding that objective, whatever you're doing, these guys are going to die. Yeah, because they're still 4+ safe, toughness 3, 1 wound. And sure thing, you can spend 2 CP from the regiment keyword to reinforce them. But then you're basically... this is becoming quite CP hungry. Yes, and maybe you ingress, maybe you smoke, and then you're spending 2 command points on them to basically bring them back. So you're going to do that with other stuff. Yeah, you're going to do that with your Kazkin or your Sentinels or your Scion Blob. You're going to be using CP that way. But what I'm kind of getting to is that if they had, let's pretend, a -1 to hit, or they had a free rapid ingress, suddenly it's getting better and better, but the lack of that is making them obviously quite resource intensive, and you're basically putting in a fair bit of command points into unit, which isn't guaranteed to kill stuff. Yeah, because only 1 melter or plasma, no rerolls. Granted, you can shoot the sentry twice, which is cool, but it's hitting on 4s. You've got no plasma pistol. You've got no power fist to get in the mix if you have to, and you've got no rerolls. This unit will probably... And again, who knows what's going to happen out there? You may all prove me wrong. I'm not the best player in the world, so who knows? But this probably will be a mission play unit, a core mission play unit. And as per what Matt said in the chat, is that they could basically be a unit which basically is counteracting your opponent's secondary objective achievement, if that makes sense. So that's my perspective. I managed to speak for a good 30-odd minutes there. Obviously, we don't know the wider impact of what's going to happen to our points, but it's seeming like this is not going to be the hottest thing ever. They certainly are going to be a good tool. 3-inch deep strike is a fantastic tool for guard. Shooting twice is fantastic, so you could even do it in ingress, as I said. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's wildly amazing. They're not going to blow the doors off, but again, maybe, and who knows, maybe with the balanced data like tomorrow or anything else, is that maybe Science suddenly got to 55 points and you've got 110 points to pay for 10 and you've got 90 points to pay for 10 of these jump pack boys. So the points, I think, is a key aspect, but broadly speaking, I don't expect them to be a massive damage deal like the Scions are. And I think also a miss, which would have been cool, is if you take 2 pistols, it could have been twin link. That's cool. If you imagine that 2 pistols zapping away, it could be twin linked. And also, I mean, pistols, it's good, but, if you're charging into something serious, there'll be no pistols left because they're all dead, yeah. And I think also it's a bit of a shame because I had the stabber, the percussor, who's meant to be like an assassin with a cool blade. And basically it's just a close combat weapon. So you can see they've streamlined things a fair bit. Obviously the melter mine gets nothing. The precursor gets no cool rules. And then the twin links, sort of like gangsters with their pistols, don't get twin links. But yeah, so it's certainly a new tool in the toolkit. Obviously, some of you were saying in the chat, we don't know what the new codex will bring, and suddenly maybe like everything changes and maybe Science lose Deep Strike, and that would be total turd because you can now buy these models. But within the confines of our current index and the current points we've got going for us at the moment, this doesn't look like a damaged deal. It looks to be a very good mission play unit. So hopefully interesting for all you've kindly joined me on a Wednesday evening, and when you watch the replay, I love to hear your perspective and comments. As always, if you enjoyed my sort of take on this type of thing, make sure you support me with a like, comment, or subscribing, sharing the video, or just watching any of my other YouTube videos. I bring a sort of analytical, tactical aspect to my tactical videos, but also do lore videos and also painting, assembling, and kit bashing hobby videos. Really appreciate all the support from my current Patreon platoon members and also channel members as well. So keep your bayonet sharp, lads going on, faith in the Emperor strong. Patreon platoon, sound off. I won't do the sound off now, but you know what I mean. Anyway, well, nice to see you all, and chat to you next time. Cheerio.